Big news today. 7-time is full-time in the IndyCar Series in 2022. Jimmie Johnson announced that not only will he run the Indianapolis 500 this year, not only will he run the road courses in IndyCar, but he will run all the ovals as well and thus compete for the 2022 IndyCar Championship. We're going to talk about what realistic expectations he can have running the full season, as well as multiple other IndyCar-related stories. And we're also going to start talking about car counts for the full season, because it seems like it's going to be very crowded. So a lot of this video is going to be who is driving in IndyCar next year, but we got to start out with one person who is not driving IndyCar next year, and that is the mayor of Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe, who announced yesterday that he is stepping away from full-time IndyCar Series driving. A lot of that has to do with a lack of options, but I think in a lot of ways it's options away from IndyCar that Hinchcliffe will be pursuing. I think it's a pretty open secret at this point that he is first in line to replace Paul Tracy at NBC in an analyst role, and I think there's some other places you could see James Hinchcliffe driving next year, though I don't think the Indianapolis 500 would be an option. I think he will be behind the mic and not behind the wheel of that event, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly stranger things have happened. Speaking of strange things, Pato Award tested with McLaren at Abu Dhabi yesterday as a reward for his first victory at Texas Motor Speedway. Award completed 92 laps in his first Formula One drive and was scored fourth fastest on the day. Pato, if you follow him on social media, was his usual excitable self, but it was really cool to see Pato get this opportunity. I know a lot of people are kind of getting the speculation bug and asking whether or not he would end up in a race for McLaren at some point. I would say that's probably unlikely. But again, as I mentioned kind of with Hinchcliffe, stranger things have happened. So I'm sure there is a scenario somewhere out there where Zach Brown would give him a Formula One race opportunity, but that probably wouldn't be in the next couple of years. Also in American interests at the Abu Dhabi test is young Logan Sargent, who was testing that day with Williams. Of course, he's signed with them as a development driver and will race in F2 for Carlin Racing next year. Sargent also, believe it or not, managed to run 92 laps, and that was despite blowing a motor sky high. Sargent finished the test 15th fastest. And another IndyCar signing that isn't really surprising at all, but David Malukas has signed with Dale Coyne Racing, his family's HMD Motorsports, partnering with the team, essentially replacing Vassar Sullivan in that role with the team. Malukas has been very quick throughout testing and joins what is an absolutely spectacular rookie class for 2022. The Rookie of the Year fight is going to be absolutely insane, and it's going to get even more crazy at the Indianapolis 500, and that's where we move into our next story, which is that Jimmie, the Juggernaut, Johnson, announced his Indy 500 plans today. Of course, like I said when I covered him doing the rookie test just about a month and a half ago, you don't run the rookie test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway if you don't plan to run the Indianapolis 500. What was perhaps a little bit more surprising and exciting are the plans that Jimmie Johnson, Carvana, the American Legion, and Chip Ganassi have to run and contest the full 2022 NTT IndyCar Series season with a fourth full-time Ganassi car. Now, it's very important to note, because I know there's going to be a lot of worried Tony Kanaan fans out there. Kanaan still has a contract with the team to run all of the oval tracks next year. So don't worry, TK will be in a fifth Ganassi racing car next year. And I've just got to wonder, can they rustle the number 11 away from AJ Foyt Racing for next year? Because, well, Kanaan's already got the number 11. It wouldn't take too much of a... Or he's already got the sponsor 7-Eleven. If he got the number, hey, we could get a 7-Eleven throwback again, this time with the right number, and hopefully one that the fans can actually see, and maybe we can make a diecast this time. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about Jimmie Johnson. So last year I said that you needed to keep your expectations for Jimmie Johnson very, very low, because what he was doing last year is just absolutely insane. The fact that you can come in to IndyCar in your 40s after having a full NASCAR career and run on the toughest tracks that IndyCar runs on, which are the road and street circuits, that was a very, very tall order. And the fact that people, so I made memes, obviously. I think everybody did. But I think the people who were seriously crapping on Jimmie Johnson for what he did last year, and people still do it and say, oh, he's running around at the back, why is he out there? Well, first of all, would Chip Ganassi be running a fourth car full-time for anyone other than Jimmie Johnson? No. So stop your complaining. Is Jimmie bringing in a major, major sponsor in Carvana for the full season? Yes. Stop your complaining. I mean, is Jimmie going to run the full season now? Is he going to run the ovals? That's one of the big complaints everybody had last year. Yes, he is. Stop complaining about Jimmie. And really, he improved last year. And the tracks that he improved at the most were the Indianapolis Road Course and at Laguna Seca. Tracks that he ran on the most. In the case of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he had run 2 races in a row there. I'd been speaking with a few people involved in IndyCar, who had been involved in IndyCar in the past couple of years. And one of the things that they said to me that I thought was very interesting is that getting into IndyCar usually takes you 2 years to find your footing and be quick. Now, the really elite guys are there right away, but the second year really tells the tale of what you are going to be as an IndyCar driver. And I think if you look at Jimmie Johnson, he got very consistent in the last part of the season, and he started having decent finishes, mid-pack finishes. And if Jimmie can run mid-pack on the road courses and stay close enough to be in striking range, I think that's exactly what they're going to want to accomplish. I think that's where they want Jimmie to be starting the season. And here's why. In IndyCar racing, as we've seen, you can take some big strategy risks and have them pay off. Dale Coyne Racing is a great example, and a great example of why we have a Carlos Huertas IndyCar win. So if Jimmie can just get to the point where he is within the pit lane delta, he can save fuel, they can short pit him, and potentially save a pit stop here or a pit stop there, or make the right tire call if it's raining, or make the right tire call if the reds and blacks have a wide margin between them. There's nothing to say that Jimmie Johnson can't improve on the 14th place finishes he was getting last year. I think he is very much capable of that. And of course, now that he's running the oval tracks, the whole world of possibilities of Jimmie Johnson competitiveness, I think, open up. If you watch the test video, one of the people I spoke to is Dario Franchitti, and yes, he is a biased eye. He works with Chip Ganassi Racing. He's a friend of Jimmie Johnson's. But one of the most important quotes, I think, in that entire video was how impressed Dario was with Jimmie, not at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, though he was impressed with him, but at Texas Motor Speedway, which you see drivers really struggle with in Indy cars. And that says to me that Jimmie potentially is going to come off the trailer at Texas and be right on pace. And this is another thing I think people don't realize about NASCAR drivers when they come over to open wheel racing. Yes, the cars drive, react, different weight, all that stuff. It's all different. Jimmie has learned on the toughest side of IndyCar racing, or the toughest to adapt to after coming out of a stock car. On ovals, he's on a lot more even playing field. And because of the fact that Jimmie especially came from an era in NASCAR where not only were you running a lot of 500-mile races, meaning you have to be very mentally tough, have a good mind for strategy, and know when to push and when not to push, when to be smart, but he also ran in the era of NASCAR where you didn't have to have cautions. You were not running to a stage, you were running to the end of the race, and that's exactly how IndyCar oval races play out. There were 2 caution flags in the Indy 500 this year. Strategy, being smart, being smooth was the name of the game, and what ultimately won that race for Helio Castroneves. And if you think about Jimmie Johnson and his skill set, that's exact. I think he has one road course win in his entire NASCAR Cup Series career, and the other 92 are on ovals. I'm just saying, if he's running 14th and he was getting waxed by all the NASCAR drivers on road courses anyway, and then you go up against what arguably is one of the strongest road racing fields in the world in IndyCar, and you're running 14th, logic would dictate that if you are capable of winning 90-plus races on an oval in Cup, that once you get into an IndyCar, there's going to definitely be a learning curve. There's no doubt about it. But if you're thinking that Jimmie's going to be less competitive on the ovals than he is on the road courses, what are we thinking here? Is he going to is he going to challenge Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward and Scott Dixon for the championship? Hell no. That's not going to happen the first year. But Jimmie, again, this is another thing that Jimmie's been saying for a while. I don't think people are listening to it. He's in for the long haul. As long as Carvana and American Legion and Chip Ganassi have him back, he's going to run IndyCar. I made this comparison back, it was probably a year and a half ago. But I kind of, once a lot of this talk started happening, the closest comparison that I had to Jimmie Johnson was Emerson Fittipaldi. And Emerson Fittipaldi went and won world championships in Formula One, had a bit of a dip in his career, came to IndyCar, and eventually, in his second year, started winning races. His first race win was a 500-mile race at Michigan, which was something that was outside of his comfort zone. IndyCar is on an oval. But of course, Emerson went on to win the Indianapolis 500 twice and had a lot of success in IndyCar racing. Now, do I think Jimmie's going to totally emulate Emerson Fittipaldi? No, I don't. But I think he's capable of winning races in IndyCar, particularly on the ovals. And again, as he continues to adapt to these cars, he's only going to get better. Now, age is definitely going to be a factor, but if you think about it, the last 2 Indy 500 winners have been well over 40. So, just throwing that out there. Another point of this, and I think it's interesting too that this is a Honda-powered car going full-time that perhaps we didn't expect to go full-time. And that may be the reason why all of a sudden the Honda limit of 18 motors for the Indianapolis 500 has gone down to 17. Because perhaps they were expecting that a certain motor was not going to run at a few races, and now all of a sudden that the engine is spoken for at some races, they no longer have that space to add another entry for, say, Dale Coyne at the Indianapolis 500. Very interesting there. Car counts are pretty much going to be up across the board. I think we could see some rounds next year outside of the Indianapolis 500 that could have 30-plus entries. I think over the course of the season, we're going to see 25 full-time cars. Let me read exactly which ones they're going to be. So 3 from Penske, 4 from Andretti, 3 from Rahal, 2 from McLaren, 4 from Ganassi, 2 from Coyne, 1 from Juncos, 2 from Carpenter, 2 from Shank, and 2 from Foyt. That's 25. Now, it's reasonable to expect, I think, throughout the course of the season, you'll see other entries showing up. The additional Ganassi entry we already know is going to be at the ovals with Tony Kanaan, so that could be, you're already looking at the ovals as having 26 cars. Then it's reasonable to assume that McLaren is going to have a sizable portion of the year covered, so let's add another McLaren, you're at 27. And then there's constant rumors of AJ Foyt Racing adding another car, so there's your 28, 29. So, and then add, say, the second Juncos car shows up for more than just the Indianapolis 500. There's an extra car. What if Ryan Reinbold shows up with Santino Ferrucci or Sage Karam or both at another event? There's 2 more cars. So see how that'll. What if Top Gun shows up again at the Indianapolis road course for the Brickyard again? Add another car. What we're going to end up happening potentially is bumping on tracks that are not the Indianapolis 500. And even if we don't, we're going to have extremely large fields at tracks that desperately need large fields, I think, to put on a good show. Tracks like Iowa, tracks like Gateway. We're going to see lap traffic be a factor in ways that we have not seen for a very, very long time. Since the 90s, really. So, hey man, I'm all for this right now. Thank God for Jimmie Johnson bringing another full-time car to the IndyCar grid, and I can't wait to see what he does next year. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. It's been a busy month, and we're just getting started. There's even more motorsport coverage to have. There was next-gen testing today. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Or maybe we'll talk about something completely different. It's an ever-changing world, and I'm glad you guys are here with me. We'll see you in the next video.